So Yoga Sutra, oh, I'm getting blinded. Yoga Sutra 412, right?
Yeah.
I'm going straight into the centering yoga blog spot. The past and the future are both part of an object's own form. Changes flow along the law. Carrera gives us the example of an oak tree. At one point, the tallest tree was only a small seed, containing within it the potential for growth, while the mature tree of today contains the same potential, but in the power to produce new seeds and new generations for tomorrow. The same tree will itself someday die, decomposing back to earth, or perhaps a portion will be used to make a chair, which will eventually break and be used as kindling to ignite a fire, and in doing so, be transformed into light, heat, and ash. Patanjali says that all objects contain within their essential nature or own form, both the past and the future, existing together. Remembering that in this philosophical system, objects are not simply things, but include thoughts and the mind itself, we can begin to see our own underlying potentials. Within us, past and future come ever so close together, separated only by this one moment. We know that the past is beyond our control, no matter how much longing we may have for a different history. Still, too many of us walk backwards into the future, looking only towards the past. Atita, the word used here for past, means to pass by. In the gospel, Jesus encourages his followers to be passerby, a term used on gravestones to hail the living. I believe that both Jesus and Patanjali wanted us to not dwell in the past, in a sort of death, but in the life of the present. In doing so, we can unlock the potential hidden in our own futures. The root of anagatam is gam, to go. The future invites us to go forward, not to look back. There are so many choices, so many side roads, so many obstacles ahead. How can we steady our steps in such a world? This sutra says that changes will manifest or flow along with Dharma. Dharma is a characteristic form, order, or law. It is the way that things are, the way they should be, and the way that they can be. It is that which holds together. So for us, the challenge is to find that which holds us together, maintaining our connection with the past without leaving a part of us behind, experiencing the fullness of life in this very moment. And we look forward with anticipation to the future. My theme throughout this commentaries has been the thread of oneness, that which is our birthplace in the past, our home in the present, and our future in homecoming. It is the strand that can bind us to Dharma, so that we flow along the water course of our own life, rather than being diverted into sluggishness and stagnation. Tree, seed, fire, and ash. Oneness is our essential nature, our svarupa, our own form. That's it. I like, where is it? I like how he puts, we know that the past is beyond. Within us, past and future come ever so close together, separated by only by this one moment.
Yeah.
And that to me is everything, and so hard to constantly be being present all the time.
So funny, I'm walking Kramer, and I was just sort of listening, but also forward thinking on my day, and I didn't get up and walk, and I need to do that, and I should have already done this, and now it's already this time, right? And so like I'm gonna be honest, I only like half heard. I thought I was listening, And so I'll go back and read it, but it's just at one point Micheline was reading and something snapped me back into the moment, and I'm like, stop thinking about all that, enjoy this time walking Kramer right now. But I was still doing two things at once, because I was still trying to listen and enjoy walking him, but I caught myself not being in the present.
Right.
And I missed out by not being in the present, because I was so like worried about everything else that might happen. I mean, how many times do we catch ourselves, or myself catching myself doing this during the day? And now I'm missing out on my time walking Kramer and missing out on the reading, because you're so worried about what should have happened earlier and what could be happening. I'm like sitting here thinking, what am I going to have for dinner? It's not, I haven't even had breakfast yet.
I know.
But it's like, it's so
all the
annoying.
time.
You have to like, it's hard. I think this work is extra hard for us, because like, I'm going to speak for myself, but like, I don't have children, but I still have Kramer. I have a 43, soon to be 44-year-old toddler at home that I have to take care of too. And like, it's the food that gets me sometimes. Like, I can meal prep, but it's like, you gotta take this out of the freezer. I have to go to the store. I don't have dinner tonight. I don't really want to go to the store right now during COVID, for one thing. So I try to do it all at once. And I'm not, like, I don't know if this is relevant to what was read, but I just wanted to share my not being in the present moment. And then Micheline was talking about time and present. So I don't know if I'll have much value add to the reading today.
My mind was, as I was turning the computer for this, my mind was doing exactly the same thing you are doing now. Like, oh, it's already I could have gotten breakfast halfway ready. I should have cooked the potatoes for later. And no, and what I was doing, not doing that because I got up at 6:30, is I sat outside and took forever sipping my coffee and walked around the garden and looked at the vegetables, which is really what I should be doing.
That's nice. Yeah.
But so the pictures from our camping trip from last week, someone wrote something, you look so relaxed, or I don't know what he said. Anyway, it's someone that I know from when I used to live in the city. And I responded back, I go, yeah, I was totally like just there in that moment, and I forgot about everything, and all this pain that I had in my right side just completely dissolved and disappeared. And for 3 days there was no COVID in my head. There was no, like, none of the issues that have been going around that we've all been dealing with and struggling with. I wasn't angry at the fact that I can't go home. I wasn't sad and upset and crying every time I think about my new baby niece that I cannot meet. I was just there. And none of this, 3.5 days, none of all those things that have been coming up like on a daily basis existed. And it's just because I really was there. It was like I don't know, like just being out in nature and like being with all the animals. I was just so pulled into that present moment, and it was so beautiful. And if we could do that every day.
That's the trick, right? How do we do that every day when we're back in our homes and in our everyday lives? How do we try to, because I'm constantly doing what you're doing, Pam. I'm constantly checking myself that I'm planning forward. Not so much looking backwards, I guess, but constantly that planning forward.
I think planning is fair. Like every day like once I get to my desk, I like be like, this is like, I do my chunk time sort of outline, like this is what I'm going to do for the day. And then at night I sort of close it out and say, okay, this, I didn't get to cross it off or prioritize it for tomorrow, whatever. I think planning for me is important, and I'm not going to dismiss it. It's just, you can't be planning while you're doing the act.
Right.
Like the act has to be planning. And so I get caught up in planning when I'm doing the act.
Yes, I do too. Like when I'm out for a walk, when I should just be walking, that my mind is going. Unless I'm listening to something, unless I've got headphones in and I'm listening to something, which keeps me focused on that. But if I'm not, it's that practice of concentration. So there's another way to practice that concentration when I'm out walking without listening to something, just to focus and stop, you know. All right, when I'm done here, I'll go do this and I'll go to that. Because I'm already thinking that too. I didn't get up and walk this morning.
Same.
Morning,
and that's
morning.
yeah.
And so then now it's going to be really hot. Am I going to want to go do it when it's really, really hot?
But I think that's why my mind isn't clear either, because I didn't do my walk.
Right.
And then it's like the worry, will I do it today? And like, that's why I like to get it up and done, so that, and it's only the third day. So, but I was already noticing. But what I did notice about my walk, I have injury in my left leg. So I'm getting new sneakers. They're coming today in the mail. And that's kind of why that was my excuse. I'll wait for my sneakers to come so I can try them out. But I noticed on my walk, I was doing that too. But now I really stay present. I have to consciously lift my leg up on my left side through my hip and gently place it down heel toe, and do that every step so that I'm not jamming my leg into the ground. And that's been helping me stay present. And I'm not listening to anything. I'm just like, every step, it's like, lift your hip up, lift your quad up, lift your knee up, put your heel toe down, and like just watching really how I'm walking. But by doing that, it's almost like I'm giving myself like a physical therapy, but it's like such a present, it's such a present walk, because I'm only thinking about that one thing in my leg, and now I'm not having the injury. Like,
it's a walking meditation.
Yeah.
Jackie
but what everybody's describing, which is kind of like the monkey mind stuff, and constantly thinking about what I should have done, what I should do, what I didn't do yet, and etc. That's I think that's constant for almost everybody I know. And for me, and the reason why I started participating in this group totally, the first reason, and then there were other reasons, but the first reason was I would have kind of enforced meditation, and that's what meditation is for me a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time it is, my mind starts drifting and it gets caught in the tentacles of all the shoulds and woulds, et cetera, et cetera. And then I sort of pull it back and say, well, wave goodbye to that one, and take another breath, and you know, and it's practicing focusing on what's right in front of you. And for, you know, I mean, I now have various strategies, which some days are totally useless and other days are helpful, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is. But that's what meditation is for me, it is coming back to the moment.
Yeah.
And that's why I do this every day. The sutras are very interesting, and it's fascinating learning about this stuff. But in the end, I'm here for that 20 minutes at the end, and the fact that other people are doing it, and I have to show up because I said I would show up.
Right.
And therefore, and it's like Pam, it's like your daily plank-a-thon, you know? It's like you have to show up because you said you would show up, and you keep talking about it, so you sure as hell better show up.
Well, I haven't planked in like 2 weeks, so I give myself breaks.
Yes, yeah. Well, an injury will do that also, but you said once when you were planking, it was practicing, and it's true. When you are planking, I for one am counting up to 36 very slowly, because that's 60 seconds for me, and that, you know,
awesome.
And that's really focusing.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing that works. And Jackie, you were describing listening to music or a radio show or something, or, you know, something as you walk. And I also find that if I'm writing or doing art, I have to really focus.
Right.
It's either that or nothing happens, good or bad, nothing happens. And you have to really focus. And while that's not the same as meditating, it is at least paying attention to one thing.
Right.
And there's a certain amount of joy involved in that. You know, Pam, the other day you were talking about creating from a place of joy as opposed to checking something off on your to-do list, you know? Or was it, and I think it was also the discussion about Italy, where sometimes it feels like it's so much easier to think and to talk and to create from a place of joy as opposed to, well, I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it.
Amanda was talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, she was. And I don't know. So what you read, Micheline, is sort of like the state of my life. And I wish I had, oh, here it is, thinking about the past, but I wish I had been more aware of these things and some strategies to use, especially when I was raising my kids. Because it's so easy when you're working full time and you have kids to get into a get it done mode, which is not the same as appreciating the fact that you have these little miracles running around in front of you and making all the connections that you can possibly make. That's a big regret that I have.
Me too. So I feel the very same. I feel like if I had been doing this work then, all of our lives would have been very different. But it is what it is. I mean, I did my best with what I had. Like we keep saying, I did my best with what I had when I was there. But I do wish that I had been more in the moment and really enjoyed it more than I did, because I was always rushing them and trying to get the next thing done, trying to get everything done. You know, so
that's where I get stuck with being stuck in the past. Like, he talks about the 3, and I've been able to really embrace my many screw ups and like embrace that I am who I am today because of all the screw ups I did and like mistakes that I was so embarrassed about. And I'm able to talk about like this stuff because it's helpful to others that like, yeah, you can be stuck in like a really miserable hole and come out and be able to do whatever and find things that you love and like, I don't know, be a yoga teacher and that's my job. And it doesn't feel like a job because I love it so much. But if you looked at me 20 years ago, not even 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago, from when I was 14 to like 18 years ago, we would have been like, yeah, you will never ever be a yoga teacher because you're such a complete mess and you can't function, you know, like in any way, like with anything that we teach. But I do get stuck when it comes to my kids. Like I watch them struggling with things and I so quickly go back to like, oh, it's my fault because if I didn't do this, this and that, and if I was more this and that, and then I have to like give myself the whole pep talk of like, that's what you knew back then and you didn't have the tools that you have today. And now all you can do is show up and just teach through example. But that's my like, it's like a vacuum suction all the time where I get sucked into so quickly.
Yeah.
I think as mothers we whatever goes wrong, we blame ourselves anyway. Whether it is relevant to what we did or didn't do, we will find the way to blame ourselves anyway. So that's something it's a cycle you have to get out of. Mother guilt.
Mother guilt.
Mother guilt sucks.
Always there. Yeah.
Should I read 413 talks about present, past, and future?
Sure.
Oh, and the gunas again. So 413, when present, past, or future objects, forms arise from the selfhood of the gunas. We have to begin with the gunas. In the philosophical world of the Yoga Sutras, the gunas are the building blocks of reality. They can be understood both as type of subatomic particle and as psychological habits, existing in 3 forms as rajas, tamas, and sattva. They represent motion and desire, inertia and ignorance, and truth and light, respectively. All of nature is said to be composed of various combinations of the gunas, leading to what we experience as difference and degree in our surrounding environment and our inner world of thoughts and emotions. Patanjali says here that all things align with the gunas. They exhibit gunatmana or guna selfhood. The essence of each object arises because of its mixture of movement, immobility, and rest. And this recipe can change over time. Take, for instance, water manifesting as a stream, that's rajas, ice as tamas, and liquid, a balance of the gunas. But this is simply an Eastern physics. What is of more interest and importance is the metaphysics of mind as object and the tangled mixture of singular thoughts that arise from it. Each thought is also considered an object in the system of philosophy, and each is therefore caught up in the same blending of desire, ignorance, and truth. Our minds then, like water, can boil over into steam, harden into immovable ice, or remain fluid. The commentator Vyasa said that the subtle manifestations of the gunas predominate in the past and future of an object, while the phenomenalized forms are known in our present. What can we learn from him? Only this: our present mind state is the most concrete, the most readily accessible, to which we have access. And still, we spend that present lingering in the past or longing in for the future, both of which lie beyond our powers. The past is unchangeable, hardening like ice, no matter how our understanding of it may evolve, while the future is steam. We can only guess the droplets and rivulets into which it may condense. But now, here in this moment, the water of our minds may flow through our hands. Much of it may escape us, but with practice, we can direct it into courses to coax growth from dusty soils, or into pools where it may settle and clear. The following sutras linger with the theme of the flux of objects' natures, and how our relationships with these changes builds our own understanding of reality. But throughout, there is a deeper thread to be followed, the thread of presence. Neither living in the past, nor losing ourselves in daydreams of tomorrow. What is reality if not presence? Ouch.
Well, that was it.
Exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
That's like I talk about. We used to watch, oh my God, NCIS. I don't know if you guys have ever watched it, with Gibbs, and he smacks his coworkers at the back of the head.
Yes.
When they're like, whatever,
right
when they're not here doing what they're supposed to do, he just walks up to them and, well, he's the boss, and he just smacks them at the back of the head. Yeah. And I sometimes, like, stuff happens, and I'll tell my husband, I was like, that was my Gibbs.
I have exactly the same thought. It's such a wonderful visual of, wake up, you fool. You know? It's great.
Like, it really crack. Like, you think you're like wherever, and then like shit hits the fan, and it's like such a wah in your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not always as light or as funny, but
yeah.
Well, when I was sharing that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When I was sharing that story earlier about like catching myself, it's like, this is not a perfect, it's a practice, they say all the time. And it's like, when I catch myself and I can, instead of, I could have, years ago, before this yoga practice, before this meditation practice, I would have spent days and weeks and months stuck in that routine. Now it lasted maybe a few minutes, and then I was able to catch myself, and now I can live my day in the present and enjoy it all day. And I think that's the power of this meditation practice, this 20 minutes or whatever, just focusing my mind, like just clearing out the clutter and being like, no, this isn't the story. It's those stories that we create that really, so yeah, I don't get mad at myself when I miss out and I spiral, or that's what I call it, but I try, sometimes it lasts hours and sometimes it's a few minutes, but it's a lot shorter than it used to be. If time is even real, who knows?
You know what you said about telling the stories? That's really what it is. It is.
Oh yeah, I know.
The telling and the retelling. Well, it is a wonderful allegory. It is the telling and the retelling of what happened or what's going to be or what could be or what you're fantasizing is happening. For me, with my kids who are so far away, you know, it is the telling and the retelling. And it's true. Sometimes I wake up from that and I kind of laugh because it's sort of like, well, you know, if you were writing a story, this would be great, but you know, this is
Well,
your
I think about what Amanda said about the photo albums yesterday, and like photo albums are my most treasured possession, especially for my sister's photos.
Yeah.
It's all I basically have, and I totally agree and understand what she's saying, like about how this photo album, my memories of it isn't really necessarily what happened. It's just my memory of my story of what happened.
the story, yeah.
And I'm okay with keeping that. I'm aware of it, but I'm not going to say I'm going to throw out all my photo albums. Because then all day yesterday, I'm like, should I just throw them all out? I'm like, no, I can't do that.
No.
Right now, I'm not ready to let go of
No.
those stories.
Yep.
But like I have, you know, like old people I don't even speak to anymore, and I'm holding them. And like maybe one day I'll let go. But for now, they're safe. They're hidden in the cabinet. They're not affecting my day-to-day story. Lifeline. You know, but people can do that where they're like my sister, my younger sister, her version of our childhood is a lot different than mine.
Oh,
When she looks back at, you know, we've talked about this before, but I think it's okay to have these stories. Like it's like, I don't do this work to erase my memory.
No.
I just try to do it to live in the moment.
Yes. But you know something, one of the things that in one of an early Amanda class that I did that stuck with me after all of these years is that, and this, I thought of this, Pam, when you were talking about the importance for you of planning and of, you know, targeting what to do during a day, et cetera, which is, none of this is bad. None of this is wrong. It's just make a place for it. And that's the place where you do it. And then you move on to the next thing for which you've made a place. Because she used to talk to, and as a newbie in her class, and my mind would be all over the place, pretty literally painting the sides of the studio walls, you know. and she once said, you know, just think about how you're breathing. Just think about breathing. And if stuff comes to mind, set it aside and make a list and get it done. And it was just such a sane thing to do, you know, pay attention to this now because you're here now. You got your mat on the floor now. Why waste your time now? And know that there will be time later to get done what you will get done. One of the most reassuring things she said when I first started this was, it'll get done. Make a list and it'll get done. And it's, I don't care how many time management, and there's legions of ways out there to manage your time, and I don't care how many of them you use, it really doesn't matter unless you have that in your head. Pay attention to what you're doing, set the other stuff aside. If you have to make note of it, make note of it, and then at some point, find a way to get it done. And it's such a simple thing, but it resonated with me. So, and I want to change the subject a little bit. And Pam, you're kind of my icon for this, which is this group has been starting a little bit later, and we've been chatting a little bit later, and as a result, we've been running over sometimes by 20 or 25 minutes. And one of the things that I used to really like when you led the group, Pam, was that we more or less started on time. We more or less started our meditation on time. And I kind of like getting back into that hour, sort of a sacred hour.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Recently, last week, sometimes we went to like 9 o'clock. We were just
What?
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
It was fun.
I think it's fair to say though, Sue, that our little chat before we start sutra is I enjoy, but I still think if we're going to do that, we still need to focus on and like starting meditation around now and ending by 8:30.
Well, yeah, we have give or take about 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But last week it was like we were starting at like 8:40 meditation.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was fun, but I'm with you.
Yeah, it was like that. I agree. It's overflowing into the day.
Right.
Okay.
I was gonna quickly share. I don't think I mentioned this yesterday. How the pigs got out of the their area and just took off down the path that I shared that. It was pretty hysterical. But they reminded me such an important thing about being present. So this farm is a regenerative farming. They're all natural. The animals roam, but they have them in a wired area with the electric fence. So the owner had just moved the pigs to a fresh patch, and he forgot to turn the fence on. And we had walked to the barn to go see the cats. So they had said that they were going down to move the chickens. So I knew they were like at the very other end of the farm. We go back to the campsite. And Kyle was crying over, I don't remember what, but I was squatting, sitting like this, staring at him. And from the corner of my eye, I see like a little pink cloud floating behind grass. And I go, I think there's a pig. Like, I'm pretty sure I didn't just imagine that. And I go, Kyle, you want to go see and we'll continue talking about this later. So we'll run. My husband cuts to the grass. He's like, there's 4 pigs up here. So he tells my sister-in-law's stepson to cut to the grass and stop the pigs. And they redirected them. It was hysterical. We laughed so hard and we got the pigs back and there was no service up there, but I was like, my phone is gonna work right now. So I called the owner and sure enough, I'm running down the path and the phone actually worked. I'm like, it has to work right now because this is really important. And I'm like, are the pigs supposed to be like roaming up here? And he's like, oh my God, they came to the tent. And I'm like, no, they're going down the path towards the street. And he's like, we'll be right there. So they have this little cart that looks like a golf cart kind of, but it's not a golf cart. They drive up.
Yeah.
And they're like, how did you guys get them back in here? I'm like, they just chased them back down. It was one of the funnest things we got to do. And I kept saying, I can't believe I saw that. Like 6 times out loud. I can't believe I saw, because the grass was like this high and they were on a path behind the grass. So the grass wasn't even moving. And after 6 times of saying, I can't believe I saw that, I was like, light bulb went on. I was like, I was super present. And I would have never caught that if I wasn't what I am here. Like my mind here would have never caught that pig. And I sat there like kind of brooding about how many things have I missed in life that were like little things like that lead to like a cool thing like that, which was so much fun. Or, and I'm like, and then I hear Amanda in my head. Sometimes she texts me when like things go crazy. She'll text me like, just be present. But that was a reminder from the page.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Yes.
all week when my mind takes off, and it's been my Dharma talk in classes, I think about pigs. Just pull back. All right. Okay, so let's do, does anyone have anything to add quick? We're good? All right, so alternate nose breathing. Sit up nice and tall. Closing right nostril, inhaling left. Closing the left nostril with the right ring finger, hold. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhale and go. Inhale and go. Close and hold. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhaling left. Inhaling left. Close and hold. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhaling left. If you need to do that a couple more times until you feel like you're ready to drop in, and then just settle in to meditation. Gently bring the hands to the heart center. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful Wednesday. Jackie, before you get off, let me stop the recording. Did you